Well, hello and welcome to the channel. I'll do a review of the Nomos Campus 38 Night. As you can see here in the advertisement, it says young and unpretentious and always ready for everything. That's quite a bold statement, so let's see if it's right or not. I really like watches because it's like a small design universe on your wrist, and I'll show you why I couldn't resist getting the Nomos Campus. But first, a wristwatch check. Here, I am wearing my Vulcan. This is from the early 70s. It's a cricket alarm watch, which is really nice. And it's in pristine condition. Everything is really nice. A blue sunburst dial. Really awesome from that time. Quite big in size for its time as well. It's a real find. And vintage watches is what I mostly like to buy, but when I do buy new watches, like the Nomos here, this one, it's when they make something that is irresistible. So I'll have a show why I think it's so good. But by the way, I have this guy standing over here. That's just to signify that we're dealing with a dress watch. He's all dressed up, ready to wear a watch like this. So what about Nomos? Well, it's quite a new brand. I mean, it started in the 1990s, so it's relatively new in a historical sense. But it has gained a lot of success and quite a lot of recognition. I think they have some awards probably even, and they have in-house movement, so it's really, really nice. So right now I'll show you why is this a great watch, and some three negative things that I want you to be aware of before you buy it yourself. So the first thing I always do is I look at the size. This is a nice size. Size is important. In my own journey, I started out not really caring what the size of the watch was. I had a lot of Breitlings at 45 millimeters and so on. But I gradually found that bigger watches were hanging, they were weighing me down. Of course, that's not going to happen with a thin watch like that. But I started to use them less and less, these big watches. And then when I started buying vintage watches, I really started to appreciate the nice things about smaller watches and the weight. So 36 to 40 millimeters is the best size for me. I do make allowances on both ends, below 36 and above 40. But you know, I almost always end up regretting it when I go outside of that. So at 38, it's actually perfect for me. The funny thing is, when I measure it, it says 38, but when you measure it like this, you can see it's 38.5. Oftentimes, you know, what watches are writing on the website is not always the real size, something that it amazes me quite a bit, because I'm from a background where I used to do quality checks with the calipers, so specifications are important. In this case, it's 38.5 and not 38. But the lock size is great. That's 20, like they say it is. This is the quite amazing part here. It's actually 49, and 49 is quite a long lock to lock here, but it makes it wear bigger on the wrist. So even though it's 38, it wears more or less like 40. So and the height, of course, is 8.5, which is what makes this such a nice dress watch, and you can't feel it on your wrist. You forget you have it on, and it's so nice, really. And the weight is nothing, but it feels solid. It feels like a real nice watch that is, solid appearance. If you have different needs for sizes, they have a 36 in white, just like you saw on the website here. They have also above 40 if you are interested in that. So designs, I think there are three things they have done quite well. They have done on this watch. The movement is number 1, the case number 2, and design number 3, and it is in that order that I find it. So first of all, the movement. I've opted for the case back, clear case back. I wouldn't mind an ETA movement or something else, but the fact that they did go to the lengths to create their own in-house movement, that is a statement that they are in and they are fully committed. This is not just a boutique brand that slaps a random movement inside a case, and as you can see here, the beauty of this alpha movement is really, really nice. So do get the transparent case back. Don't buy the solid one. Pay a little extra and get so you can see. So this is what they've done so nicely. Look at those screws and rubies, and that's really gorgeous. But that is the smaller movement, the smaller reason to buy it. But it's a nice one. It means they're fully in. And by the way, when they say in-house, it's all made in-house. There's a few things without getting too technical, there's a few things they source from outside, but 99% is from in-house, and that is way more than others that claim that they're in-house. So they are really watchmakers, in the truest sense of the word, and that's something I really appreciate. So the second reason is the case size. The case, not the size, but the proportions here. I've been close to buying this kind of dress watch before, but often the case stopped me. Oftentimes with a lot of brands, the lugs are too thin, and even goes for Nomos. If you see this one here, this is their own Nomos Tangente. You can see how those lugs, they are paper thin, paper clip thin, and also the bezel is, you can see the bezel is very, very thin compared to here. These lugs are much more generous, and I see that for a lot of other watches like Junghans and others that make a Bauhaus movement, a Bauhaus style. I don't care for those lugs. And that's a real pity, and for the bezel is too thin as well. But as you can see here with the campus, they have made something that is much more sporty lugs, and it's a young look, and a more generous bezel, and it just makes the whole thing more sporty and young. So that's what I really like. But the best reason and why I bought this watch is the design. The reason I find it so nice here is because they took something which was good and traditional, like the Bauhaus design, and they did a new take on it to give it a fresh look. Bauhaus in the early 1900s was a reaction to the heavily ornamented design which was common before then, and the principle was form follows function, with like a deliberate lack of ornamentation. So that Bauhaus philosophy sort of tried to unify art and craft with industrial technology, and a lot of watches have this Bauhaus design, and I like it. I'm especially fond of the Junghans watches. Really good watches and good design. But why didn't I pull the trigger on those? I had a feeling that it could be a bit boring after a short while, and I don't get that feeling here. This is such a different look, a different take on it. So another thing, boring means, look at the numbers are a little bit boring. The hands are thin, just like the paperclip thin lugs. The hands are thin. The numbers can be boring. They got some splash of color here, which is other, but a lot of brands have this. It gets boring, in my view, and that's why I didn't pull the trigger. So, what I think Nomos has done here is different things. Let me break it down. First of all, color. They have a dark anthracite gray, which I really like. It makes it more sporty and more contemporary. I mean, the traditional is white or off-white like that, and that's nice, but it does get a little bit boring, and this is, is special. They're not the only one. I mean, Junghans, for example, let me give you one of this. They did the same thing, the same color theme, and I like that, and I've been so close to triggering that, to pulling the trigger on that. I really like that design. The hands are, though, a little bit too thin. The locks are also a little on the thin side, but overall it's a great watch. So color is one thing, but what about this California dial? That is really unique. It's such a nice touch, and that means with the Roman numerals at the bottom and the Arabic at the top, it means I don't get tired of it. It's just such a nice twist, But the thing is, it's in reverse. Maybe you didn't catch on to that. I like that. So if you go to, these dials are usually found, in Rolex, who made them first, and in Panerai. What they have is the upside down. They have the Arabic, the Roman numerals at the top and the Arabic at the bottom, just like here. But you can see Nomos did the other way around, and in reverse. So I like that. That's just, again, a twist. And well, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but for me it's great. I mean, it says basically from 9 to 3, that's where you're at work. There, in the work hours, you use the Arabic numerals. That's efficient. But then from late afternoon, from 4 o'clock and so until 9 o'clock in the evening, I'm at home. This is more artful. This is different, and this is like a Roman style leisure when I'm at home. So we sort of combine the two worlds in the same watch. I like that. And now it is no longer boring. So that is really, really nice. And you can see the case here is I mean, it's such a nice thing. But also, apart from that, you couldn't have helped not to notice the orange hands, the second hand there. It's just a pop of color. Again, a fresh, vibrant look that is not something you see everywhere. Another thing is the lume. If you go really close, you can sort of see that there's a tinge of blue around the numbers, and when it's difficult on the camera like this, but when you get really close to it in person, it gives a fresh look to it as well. I mean, I really like that. So and the lume, I have a lume shot here. It's very, very nice. I don't use lume a lot, but it looks great and it actually works, so that is really nice. The last thing is the strap. They have used an anthracite gray color, just like the dial, and that is something I really like. A black strap for a dress watch. I mean, you can get a strap like this, brown or in black. It's often thin because it's Bauhaus. It's thin and it's very old man style, and it doesn't really appeal to me. I mean, instead I have a few watches on suede, and it just brings a more playful and softer touch to the watch, and it really complements it, making into a complete package for me. And the hands are not thin like on the Nomos here. Those thin hands, I don't care for them. It looks like needles. I mean, they hurt if you touch them. This is the locks are wider, the hands are wider. It's just overall a much more sporty appearance. So Are there any downsides to this watch? Yes, there are 3 negatives, and it's good that you know them before you buy it. First of all, size is not a problem. Some would complain that 38 millimeters is too small, but with these lugs, 38 is perfect, and it has a nice wrist presence. So maybe I should just pop it on the wrist so you can see it. Another thing, date is also not a problem. I know half the watch community cannot live without a date, and the other half would rather have it without the date. I want it without date, so I'm happy. But this is a dress watch, and so they're supposed to be without date. So I don't think anyone would really complain. If you want a date, Nomos has other styles with dates. But see, this is on my wrist here, and I've got a almost 7-inch wrist. So as you can see, those lugs and 20 millimeter wide band, and it has a nice wrist presence. So thin, so comfortable. Just remember, if you have a 7-inch wrist, do order the size small strap. If you order medium or the long one, it's going to be too big for you. So thank you I saw a review and they mentioned that, so thank you for that. I got the one, the small one. That's great. But you see, such a wrist presence here. It's really, really nice. So what are the 3 negatives? Date is not a problem, size is not a problem. The biggest downside is lack of AR coating. If you have a look, you can see some reflections here in the watch. I would prefer AR coating, really. That's a big gripe of mine always. But I've seen someone saying that a Nomos reply to this. I'll read it to you here. I can't guarantee it's correct or true, but I just took it from someone who posted their reply. But it makes sense. The application of anti-reflective coating to glass is a matter of preference. And although an anti-reflective coating will reduce light reflection, it changes the appearance of the watch, making it look duller, and can also change the color effect of the hands. For these reasons, Nomos does not use anti-reflecting coating on glass. So I respect that, but I still wish it had. It always bothers me. The old style with acrylic. I like this kind of old style, and that's what I prefer. And I don't have a problem with scratches. Yeah, I can remove them. But in this day and age, you have sapphire glass. That's great, but it's much more reflective. So I would prefer AR coating. But that's the topic of another video. Number 2 is there is quite a big, well, the light is playing a little bit here, but there's quite a big gap between the strap and the watch. So you can see skin between. I don't care for that. Ideally I would like to have those where it's a curved end strap. I don't understand why watch companies can't do that. Most often I find a curved end strap is on cheap watches, and I don't know why, because it's supposed to be more difficult to make, and many of the high-end watches don't have that. In this case, I'm okay with a straight end here, but please make it closer to the watch case. I don't like that big gap. I knew before I bought it, and I've looked at photos, so it's something to be, you just need to see it. But I get used to it after a while, and I don't notice it that much. I just wish they had put it closer to the case. The last negative is the crown. Now, first of all, the crown is really, really nice. And it functions well, and the movement inside is like buttery smooth to use it. But the only downside to the crown is that logo here. Let me try to put it in perspective here. Yeah, you can see it here. It says Nomos, and it's such a tiny print. I mean, it's okay, it's no big problem, but it's very, very small, and it's just like, I don't know, even, yeah, it's laser engraved. I wish they had done something, a deep engrave, and just N for Nomos, or some kind of logo, not the whole name. It's too small. The name here is too small to be used on such a small surface. But okay, it's small. That's a small gripe. The AR coating is the bigger one. So all in all, if you look at this, I'm just saying this is funky, it is new, it is a fresh breath of air in a category of dress watches that can have a tendency to be a little bit stale and old man style. So it takes the 100-year-old Bauhaus style and invigorate it and make it almost a near perfect watch, both for dress and for our everyday use. So for me, it's just a killer combination. So that's my ramblings on the design. If you like it, give it a thumbs up or a comment, and I'll see you again next time.